Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Hello and welcome to Strategic Frontlines, the YouTube channel of Laws. And today we are going to discuss a very sensitive issue, and rather, I would say, a very important issue related to any conflict. And as you all are aware, there are over 113 conflicts going around in the world. So if you actually plot it on the map, it would look like that the World War III is already on. The only thing is that we are not able to perceive it in the manner as a holistic phenomena which is going on across the world. But that having said, in our country also we saw a brief cameo of Sindoor, during which we had an intense narrative war which played out between both India and Pakistan, and I dare say aided and abetted by China. So all these three actors were involved in some kind of a narrative war, which is continuing even post the operation seizing of the operations. I won't call it a ceasefire because technically India has not declared ceasefire. We have just declared a cessation of military activities on land, sea, and air. Today, to discuss this with us, we have Ashish Singh, MD, and editor-in-chief of World Plus 91. A very warm welcome to you, Ashish, to the show.
Thank you, General Singh, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with you on this broadcast and talking about one of my favorite topics: the perception management, the information warfare, the psyops, and the strategic communication. Look forward to your questions and interactions.
Yeah, thanks. And I would like to briefly introduce to the audience, although he doesn't require any introduction, but suffice it to say that he has been in this journalistic field for quite some time, and he has live covered the Russia-Ukraine war, the Israel-Hamas war, and he's now currently closely watching the Iran-Israel conflict which is going on. As also during Op Sindoor, he was in a very important role to ensure that India does get the right kind of approach to whatever was coming across on us from the across the border, both from the western as well as the northern. So before we go ahead and start probing the mind of Ashish, I would like to briefly just put across to our audience what all actually happened during this Op Sindoor, and then we will widen up the entire discussion to include all the other conflicts. So I'll do this by starting with the presentation which I have. So this is basically, I'm calling it as, mastering the black magic, geopolitical tool of conflict management. This is what is going to be the future. And if we are not mastering this black magic, I'm reminded of Chanakya, who used to say that one of the means by which you can actually subdue your enemy is through magic. Now, people used to think, that he's just written that thing out of his hat. But let me tell you, this is what is black magic. What is happening around you is the black magic. Somebody called it as gray zone. What is gray zone? Is tending towards the black. So with this brief note, let me share with you a feedback which I got on a podcast from one of our podcasts which I have done with Jal Shankar and others. And it is a listener from United States of America who says, I currently live in the US and I have observed a deeply worrying trend. Anti-India sentiment is spreading rapidly across TikTok, especially among Gen Z users. Pakistan is capturing the minds for next 20 years. Instagram, Reels, and the other social media are not famous in US. Here are just few examples of the toxic narrative gaining traction against Indians. India is an aggressor in South Asia. Why Indians don't shower? India is a dirty, unsafe country. India lost the war to Pakistan. Hindus are weak and uncivilized. Dirty Hindus, etc., etc. Now you can imagine we have banned TikTok, so we could not even respond to these narratives. The other social media platforms are not very popular in the US, so therefore we should have had some handle in the United States to actually counter these narratives which were taking place. I'm not saying that we should react to every small little thing, but this was across the board, US wide. It's viral. These were viral narratives which were going on. So he suggested certain things. The brief of it is that, sometimes the banning becomes counterproductive. So maybe we could have found an alternate way to get into the TikTok and start building a narrative through our friends. And he says that the youth is very much capable of actually countering these narratives. Unfortunately, there was no guiding factor in the United States which could have done this kind of a thing, or the other Western countries. So I would, from my side, recommend that wherever is the platform, we must have the presence to counter such issues. Then we come to a brief overview of what is India's overall media picture. 900 private TV channels, 550 FM radio stations, 118,000 print publications, rapidly growing digital ecosystem with 806 million internet users and 491 million social media users. This is a 2-year-old figure. If you add it to the current figure, I think we would be touching a billion mark as far as the internet users are concerned, but I'm not very sure about it. It is projected to grow, driven by digital media and OTT platform, of which Ashish is a very, very important driver as of now. He is actually focusing in these two areas. It's likely to grow by $43.03 billion by financial year 28. Not very far, just about 3 years down the line. And maybe it might get hastened up. Data crunching and exploitation by the Chinese intelligence agencies are taking place, where they are removing the outliers and catching the essence of Indian media and trying to build counter narratives from the Chinese side. And I'll show you the virality of the narratives which were being built from the other side. So if you look at the scan of the Park narrative, I think most of you have seen it. I won't like to repeat this thing, but I would like you to focus on the central portion, which says that, hello, India, are you ready? Where they have got Xi Jinping, Yunus, and Shahbaz Sharif, all three put together. So they were picking up almost everything and anything which they could use to build a narrative. If you look at the false flag operations, they were consistently employing Indian journalists to throw out a propaganda. Intelligence failure of Indian Army. I mean, Satyapal Malik, Karan Thapar, Radha Kumari, the work Siddharth. So many guys have been actually talking about it. And how are they talking? They are talking basically based on reach out by the others, by our adversaries. And unfortunately, we have not found unity in this kind of a narrative game. Look at the targeting of religion. They targeted actually that there is Sikhs have stopped cooperating in Amritsar. Now, this kind of a narrative was going on for quite some time before the Indian fact checking organizations and the media houses. Unfortunately, it was left to the media houses to counter these narratives. I think there should be a much more rigorous method of countering these negative, putting it across as a fake news, fact check. But anyway, propaganda was the other issue which was being played out in a very, very intense manner. uh, if you look at the fake news scan, you'll find most of it later on was actually stamped as fake. But it did the damage during that period. Suppose it was an active war and it was a face-to-face war, it was not the aerial to aerial combat which was going on, it would have had an impact on our troops. And even now, probably some impact would have taken place on frontline troops. So, coming down to social media now, look at the virality. Uh, they have compared the operations of Pakistan and Operation Sindoor. They are naming operations of Pakistan as unprovoked and India as provoked. That means uh, trying to actually say that we are the aggressors and they are, and somehow they got picked up in the international environment. My own experience has been that wherever, with whomsoever think tanks I interacted, I'm talking of the foreign think tanks, based on our interaction in the past few days, I found that everybody was towing these lines and not the other way around. Okay, Chinese narrative. They were actually feeding to Pakistanis what exactly they have to do. And look at this. The one of the tweets has gone to almost 59 million. 59 million. That's a huge number. And when the program ends, it is 989 views. Suddenly, by the morning, it becomes 8.5 million views, and another by the evening, it becomes 53 million views or 48.3 million views thereabouts. What is all this? I think there is a now need for a structure, a need for good narrative builders, and a good and a good method of dissemination across the entire globe. Otherwise, we'll be losing out in the narrative war. These are some of the things which they took out from our from their war. We took out our own counter propaganda, calling out straight, fact check, deep fake, etc. But I think we came a little late on this. Besides countering the narrative, we should have also projected our narratives of positivity. We started a little late. So with that, I will end my presentation here and get my guest today. So Ashish, with that brief overview which I gave, I tried to hurry it up. What I want you to basically focus on in your opening remark is that, do you think that we could have done slightly better in Ops Sindoor as far as strategic communication is concerned, right from top down to even tactical communications, as far as our narrative building is concerned? So, and thereafter we'll expand the discussion. So, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, certainly. We as a as a country, as structure could have certainly done a lot better. But at the same time, it is somewhere in between. We did better than say post-surgical strike or the Balakot strike. So there is a lot of improvement as far as that particular area is concerned. Now, having said that, it's important to see. Every IW, every perception management, every psychological psyops, all those strategic communication aspects primarily come from the trait of a country. It may be as easy for a China to do that, as easy for a Pakistani army or a DGI aspire to do it, as compared to say a very I would say variety democracy like India, which has a lot of structures and layers, which is obviously our strength as well. At the same time, in these domains, it becomes more complex and layered as far as the entire national approach is concerned. So we have done much better as far as the domestic part is concerned, but the sync is the problem. The sync among the structures, the parties, the government, the verticals of the government. So it was kind of left to certain verticals to take care. That's not going to be practically possible to counter at that level. But the best part is this is one of my domains which I've been focusing a lot for last almost 5-6 years. It was good to see the beginning. The beginning has been pretty good, and as we say, it's difficult to have that journey from 0 to 1. But once you start, it's easy to go 1 to 10. So we are in that direction. We have started it. There are many areas that need to be worked upon, specifically the sync and the coordination at both at the top government level and going down till the verticals and the specific domains. That is one area we need to work on. At the same time, I must mention, these things are never built overnight. It's not practically possible.
Yeah.
When you see, specifically when I visited, Israel-Hamas conflict in October a couple of years ago, it was pretty evident that Israelis were doing this thing only because they could counter the Hamas narrative only because they had the decent preparation. Without that, it's not going to be practically possible for any country or any vertical to have that particular approach. And that's the reason why preparation is very important as far as the entire approach of IW and PSYOPs are concerned. Without that, it's not practically possible. We have started, and even when we have started, I think it's going to take a few years before we reach that stage if we expedite it quickly. These things, वो जो हिंदी में कहावत है ना, that प्यास लगेगी तो कुआं खोदेंगे तो नहीं चलेगा. So that is the approach we need to work on. But as I said, it's heartening to see, good to see. At least we have begun in various aspects, and that is the reason why we were much better, not slightly, much better, at least in the initiation part, in maintaining part. A bit of preemptive things were also done. Some of our government vertical, as we call in our colloquial language, the Sarkari systems, they were also some of them surprised with their activity. Yes, there was a lot of room as far as the fact check is concerned, but for a change, you saw PIB fact check was pretty active, right? So
Yeah.
when you have a Sarkari system doing much better, so it means we have begun well. It has started well. Yes, it needs to be ramped up. It needs to be institutionalized. It needs to be synced. It needs to be coordinated.
Yeah, so actually, what you're trying to say is this particular issue. This was the slide which I showed that our counter narrative really kicked in. What you are exactly trying to say, and in this we also had the public sector or the government sector, as you are calling it, also kicking in quite I would say effectively. Only thing which I felt was that possibly we improvised as the things went by. I think there is a need for, like you said, institutionalizing it, making structures which are pre-planned and anticipating as to what kind of narratives will be now coming from the adversary, and having prepared a counter narratives as also our own positive narratives going out simultaneously, like what we did in the conduct of the operation. I think the conduct of the narrative operation should have also been done simultaneously. Okay, this is happening, this is what is going to be the narrative. The problem in this is that there are chances of losing out the secrecy part of it, the surprise part of it. So for that we have to work out somehow that the narrative arm or the information arm of the country now as such has to be very well thought about and created in a manner that it is in sync with the operation which we are likely to undertake. So having said that, there was one area which I felt, this is my personal view, and I may be wrong in this. I'll remove this. I may be wrong in this, and that is the fact that I found that, and you yourself also, I think, somewhere hinted when you made the opening remark, that while the internal narratives were very well taken care of, there was something about the international narrative or international arena where we found ourselves slightly behind. And it was much later that we started with the initiative of sending delegations out, etc. So, do you think that this is the right perception of mine, or it is just my limited view? And if it is true, then how should we actually go about it in the future? Because narratives have the danger of leaking out a plan. That is also one of the factors. Yeah. Over to you.
Sir, if you see, there are two theories that I have developed. Okay, one is the triple M theory, and the second one is called the third pitch. Okay, the
Okay.
third pitch is the issue here, as far as India's approach on the narrative building abroad is concerned. Now, what is the third pitch I'm talking about? Now, how much ever you try, be it Indian media or Indian military or Indian politicians, or Indian institutions, corporates, whatever, any institution of any nature, government, private, remember, they all are trying to play on a pitch that does not belong to them. That pitch belongs to some Elon Musk. That pitch belongs to some Mark Zuckerberg. That pitch belongs to some, Altman, or so on and so forth. It belongs to some other party which is largely and primarily dominated by the Western dominance, right? From Facebook to Twitter to lot of such verticals, from WhatsApp and everyone. So that is where the issue is, and that's where I feel we got to be a little practical and realistic as well. That's where the larger picture comes. Do you feel the West is gonna easily accept India's rise, India's capability building? Certainly not. We all know that it has not been so nicely accepted and digested as far as our journey from fifth economy to the fourth economy is fourth largest economy is concerned, and we are now on the way to becoming the third largest economy. So it's not going to be easily digested. So it's like this: like America wants us to be, good, powerful when it comes to China, right? Basically to fight their own war. But when it comes to dealing with Pakistan, they suddenly become all these balancer and try and sort things out, all those aspects. So it's a very calculative approach. So our Western social media and digital media companies, the pitch I'm talking about, the third party pitch, are they going to let us do our narrative? Certainly not. I'll give an example, and that's where I want to bring the listeners' aspect towards my Russia-Ukraine war. And most of the people may not be aware of it, but I'll tell you, this is going to be revealing and shocking. Do you know that during Russia-Ukraine war coverage, from YouTube to almost all major Western-dominated social and digital media platforms, they banned the monetization of Russia-Ukraine war coverage. So basically, you can, but will not monetize it, will not let you on it. So in indirectly discouraging it, right? So in fact, I was expecting that. So it discouraged, right? Because they knew that Ukraine is not going to get that advantage, and Russia's, being a bigger country, bigger army, bigger military, is not something that should go in the psyche and the minds of across the world, of people across the world. So what they did, they indirectly discouraged. Obviously, social media, digital media, there is no monetization part. It's a thumbs down or a discouragement as far as the content creators are concerned of any platform. I was expecting that stage to reach in during Operation Sindoor as well, right? Luckily, it didn't stretch for that long. So that is the third pitch I'm talking about. You are ultimately, whatever, how much ever you want to work hard, sweat out in the net practice, but if the pitch curator is not in your favor, that pitch curator might do that, pitch wet rahegi or dry rahegi, that grass size and all those things. Can suddenly, there's just one twist can change the entire, your preparation, your game plan, your team composition, a lot of it. So that's where I believe we need to be little realistic and practical. The solution of it is we have our own BBCs and the CNNs and the RTs and the France 24, coupled with our own capabilities of social and digital media. Once we have these two combinations, I'm sure we'll be least dependent on the these Western social media and the Western media. Let's leave that fascination of BBC and CNN and Washington Post and the New York Times. We all know they're horribly biased, and they still look at us as most of them as the snake charmers and the Browns third world country. So let's not depend on them. Let's not let them measure us. It's okay, but yes, we need to have our own stuff. We need to have our own platform. That's the solution. So that is one. Second, the aspect you mentioned about the narration part, as far the Western media is concerned. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, owns one of the biggest media houses. Who's Bloomberg? A businessman. Who's Rupert Murdoch? A businessman. Most of the media houses across the world, if they are not government funded, they are primarily the media ownership pattern is either a politician or a business tycoon. Now, if you have F-16 being downed by an vintage MiG, do you feel the American media is going to like it? Certainly not, right? Balakot time. So they're not going to like it. They're not going to support us. And if you see in the recent Op Sindoor, a lot of competition was from the made in India weapons, right? Are they going to encourage it? Certainly not. They're not going to digest it nice and well. So we should not expect, and that's where I feel, let's be realistic and let's be practical. Do not let them give us marks. Having said that, we build our own capacities. We build our own, as I said, the CNNs and the BBCs and the RTs of the world. The other aspect I must realize that we, as a country, as as a system, as government, as politicians, as the corporates, institutions, we have not learned the trick of the trade as far as the communication is concerned. If you see China, I'll just give a quick example. Uh, the Chinese ambassador in India,
Mhm.
every person has a Twitter handle. There is a Twitter handle of Chinese ambassador. There's a Twitter handle of Chinese spokesperson, embassy spokesperson. Then there's a Twitter handle of the Chinese ambassador and the embassy and everyone. Do we have that? Even when it comes to Indian ambassador or Indian embassy abroad? No, no. Even if an ambassador has it, it's in the pure personal capacity. So the Twitter and such games are banned in China, right? Their diplomats are not practiced or tuned to it. They are not practicing that back home. But when they come outside, they know how to utilize this narrative medium, how to utilize the social and digital media, and they are utilizing it very well. Whereas we, being world's largest democracy, we are not practicing it. So there is a need to pump up and pull up our socks, get that advantage as far as the initiation part is concerned. Before we go further, I just want to take 30 seconds, sir, to to our viewers explain this entire concept of which you also mentioned, the reaction part and the catch up part. Information space is like a void. If you don't fill it, someone else will fill it.
Somebody else will feel it.
So the reaction is going to be horribly problematic. It's always best to have the preventive filling of that space. If you fail, trust me, it's going to be very difficult. First, you have to remove someone else's or counter someone else's narrative, and then fill it with your narrative. It's a much more complex task. It's best to have that space filled in advance. And we, as a country, as a system, as government, as institutions, as corporates, we need to up our game as far as that particular aspect is concerned.
So, two quick, uh, questions to you. You have, highlighted the various issues related to being up on the game, filling the space, etc. Now, filling the space cannot be a one-off event, right? The filling the space has to be a continuous process, because information warfare has got, or operations have got nothing to do with whether a conflict is going on or whether a conflict is not going on. There would be challenges between relationships as far as international relations are concerned. So we need to be constantly upgrading our nuanced information operations. So therefore I feel that is one area where it has to be a continuous process, so that when the time comes, you just simply upgrade, just simply push it up a notch higher to ensure that you are actually taking the lead. That is one issue. The second part, which I wanted your answer on, this is of course a comment which I gave you. The second question which I want is, we also banned certain apps, etc., and certain incoming communications coming from various inputs. But that these bans can be overcome. They can be overcome through VPN and things like that. Do you think it is better to ban, or it is better to actually combat it? So between the two, I mean, combat it through the information space only, and not through the physical space. The Israelis tried to actually physically damage the propaganda sources of the Hamas, but they couldn't succeed in the past, whether it was 2006 or 2008 or subsequently in 2011, and so on and so forth. So, which one is a better bet? Because in when I was studying Israel method of information warfare, they had given it to the army, right? Israeli army. An Israeli army, or any army for that matter, first thinks of destroying the source itself. If there is no source, there'll be no information or narrative going on. But that's not possible as far as the information is concerned. Something else will prop up. You destroy one, something else will prop up through some other ways and means. So, what's your views on the banning part of it? Should we go ahead with, or should we contest it?
So it must be compartmentalized. Okay, we can have, and my personal opinion is we should have both.
Okay.
Banning part had largely to do with the economic aspect as well, right? Like when you have a TikTok or similar such companies, they're making billions of dollars. So that's why it was called like a surgical strike, the economic strike, as far as banning those apps are concerned. Obviously,
Okay.
it comes with the security reasons. Like a lot of these apps are utilized by the terrorists for the chatting thing without SIM cards, and on a gaming app one can do this thing. So that is one. Banning is good idea. It also sends a message. It has its economic aspect. Uh, so that is fine, and that must be done, no doubt about it. And as far as the countering part is concerned, that's where I say let's compartmentalize. We can ban while simultaneously build the capacity to let's be combated. We will ban you, will not let you enter us because it has various reasons: A, B, C, economy, message, national security, a lot of things. But we can also, it's simply like surgical strike. Like, we not only have our guarded system, but we can also enter your territory and kind of destroy and damage at the time and will of our choosing. That part is missing, the capacity building being combated, and how do we explore and enter is the part missing. As far as the military destroying is concerned, I've seen a lot of younger officers. In fact, a lot of these interactions have taken place at clause under your leadership, and it's heartening to see a lot of young officers have these capabilities, have developed, as compared to, say, what the set of officers I was interacting with, say, 8 years ago or 10 years ago, who after becoming IW officer or a PRO officer or similar media and communication domain, they used to download Twitter for the first time after appointment. Now a lot of them are coming well prepared. Obviously, it has more to do with the generation. The younger generation is becoming more better in the social media apps. But there are good officers, and there's a lot of awareness and exposure as far as those parts are concerned. It's just the matter of time. Let's keep our focused approach as far as building this capacity is concerned. And as you rightly mentioned, which I was describing in my earlier answer as well, कि प्यास लगेगी तो कुआं नहीं खुदता. Those narratives have to be, those capacities. A lot of times I was asked this question: do we need this? Do we need to do that? I'm like, look, let's build it. When do you want to use it? How much you want to use it? If you want to use it or not, is something that you can decide later on a case-to-case basis. The intensity of it, the direction of it, the quantity of it. Let's leave it to the situation. But you got to build it. First, build it. It's like, having simple those tanks and those missiles. Do we need to buy them? You keep it yourself prepared, right? You use it when you want to use it. Whether you will use a BrahMos or a loitering munition is something that you'll decide on that particular evening or a day prior, depending on the situation. So that capacity building part is something that we need to have a continued focus. And the reason I'm mentioning continued focus, because it's nice to see in the current regime, there's a lot of awareness, there's a lot of push, there is a lot of focus in those areas. If we have, say, a couple of years more, continued intensity and approach will be there to tackle the DGIS, PRs, and a lot of these third pitch that I mentioned. The other aspect I must mention, sir, is the triple M theory that I mentioned earlier. Earlier.
Yeah, you.
Yes, this is something I wanted to introduce to your viewers as well. The triple M theory is the realization has taken place in the political parties, but the institution needs to have a much emboldened approach and much more active approach on that particular front. You are, say, military, right? M1. I am media, M2, and there is masses, M3. So military is obviously an example here. It could be utilized by anyone, at a corporate or a government or a political party. They're already doing it. A lot of them are already doing it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. In fact, I feel that the political parties are way ahead in this game, and possibly we need to replicate these people to actually fight our narratives.
Yeah, like it, dislike it, agree, disagree. If there is a successful model of such thing exists in our complex democracy and communication country like India, there is no shame in simply copying or maybe just learning tricks and the traits from them. It is successful, and there should not be any shame in it. It's okay if you don't like it, some political party, A political, B political, doesn't matter. Unless and until it serves our country, it serves our military, it serves our institutions, let's go for it. Let there be that clarity. So that continuing that triple M theory part for your viewers, I'm sure you have heard about it from me a couple of times, but I'm really very passionate about this triple M theory. So from M1 earlier, military needed M2, the media, to reach M3 masses. Now with the advent of social and digital media, the M1 can directly reach M3 and be least dependent on media. Uh,
Media.
Media itself is going through so much churning, at least in India, that it has now become from a journalism to the Gen Zs use the journalism. You just
Journalism.
so from journalism to journalism that has happened, because you got to quickly take out so many copies, digital pay, fatapat fire karo, fire karo. So it's churning speed that also becoming one of the factors. So yeah, that triple M theory realization is something that must take place. Once you realize the potential of it, then there is no looking back.
Okay, Ashish, I think we are flooded with questions in our chat box, and we have limited time. So what we will do is that I'll ask you the last question, and thereafter start taking questions from the audience, because they are just filling up the boxes, and I need to honor them because they've all taken their time out and are listening to our podcast. So the question which finally I want you to basically briefly cover is that if you were to pick one good and one bad examples of narration or perception management from Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas, and of Sindoor, uh, what will be those examples? And if you don't want to say something about Op Sindoor, I leave it to you because I won't like anything to. But it's always good to know where we stand and then subsequently improve upon it. It's not a question of admitting anything or something like that.
Yeah.
So we can start with Russia, Ukraine, and then go on to that was your first bastion. Then you went to Hamas, and then thereafter you came here. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, okay, I'll try and give a little more than just one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the recent one, of Sindhu.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first initiator. We struck first as far as the announcement part is concerned, and that's where the first
Score.
strike. Yeah, yeah. So
We score.
yeah. And as they say in other domain, it's applicable in IW and perception management and psyops as well. That well begun, half done. Now compare that with, so this was good. Okay. Then the Sindoor projection was fabulous. It's like just touched everyone, almost everyone, across religion, across gender. The selection of Colonel Qureshi and Wing Commander Vyomika was fabulous. It did the right job at the right time. So that was fabulous. Then elevating at the right time, although it could have come slightly earlier, as far as the communication part is concerned, from when the baton was handed over to MOD plus MEA to pure MOD, just the three services. You see the day, the weekend when we had, all our DGMOs, DGAO and the DGNO doing the press conference, back-to-back two press conferences. We had a fabulous, hard-hitting narration, because when men in uniform and women in uniform talk, almost everywhere it's a universal phenomenon. Almost every country loves and respects and follows their armed forces. That was the best part. The international narration, as far as our Indian military is concerned, MOD generally does not indulge much, whether they are allowed or not.
It's not their charter also. The international
Yeah,
bit,
that's what.
I think it needs the MOFA's introduce.
Yes, so that's what I mentioned. I don't think they're allowed, or there's a charter to do that. But MEA failed there a bit, and I'm very disappointed with that. Probably that's where the catch-up part took place, where
Later on.
Dr. Jaishankar went there and to Europe, and he started doing that. But that's pretty weak on our front. Specifically, when remember we have our press attaches, when we have our embassies, that's their job. That's their
Absolutely.
for years they are
Absolutely.
supposed to do
That
that
I
only.
mean, diplomacy is supposed to be one of the fighting elements of any warfare. Ashish, I want to just substantiate your point by a comment which I got from one of our, you know, you can say he's our adversary, and I can make out the guy where does he come from. This is where, the first point, general, we had no leverage and moral authority in the first day or two to challenge India's narrative. Exactly what you're trying to say. This was based on a remark which on a podcast which I did with Gunnar Short, and he responded to me on my Twitter handle as part of the notification bit, and he laid out all the three elements, and he actually laid out the plan of Pakistan, and exactly this is what they followed. So your point about the first 2 days, I think we really had them well. Was a very very good, I would say, preparedness. But
Now,
subsequently,
yeah.
subs-
Compare. Sorry. Complete it. Sorry.
yeah. Go ahead.
Now you compare that with the last such similar episode we had, Balakot Strike, right?
Yeah.
Balakot Strike, 5:36 a.m., 26 February 2019. DGISPR made that first tweet, right?
Yeah.
Probably by the time our pilots would have come back to their
Mhm.
respective air bases, and they would not even have changed from their G suit, and the tweet popped up, and then Balakot airstrike, they dominated narration from beginning till end, despite we making so much effort. So that initiation part was good. We were much better as compared to them. We did not leave it purely to the 10:30 a.m. Government time
Briefing.
press conference to take place. We were good to react. Our messaging was very good. Our internal preparation was very good. Now, since you mentioned about these two examples, Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, Hamas, I'll give a on-ground experience. Now, whenever war begins, unlike our clashes, Russia Ukraine is a war. Ours is not a war. Sindoor is an operation or a conflict or a clash, you can say. But whenever war begins, Ukraine had this advantage time. So they were preparing their YouTube warriors, and I'm specifying the word warrior. Okay, like if you tell me as a general, Ashish, ये हमें tweet करना है, ये लिखना है या ये बोलना है TV पे, I'll be like, ठीक है sir, okay. And if you tell me कि Ashish, you are a warrior, you're a country's warrior, you have to play your role. So that person is, the moment you attach that warrior, this thing. So they had a YouTube army. They prepared it. They had Telegram. They had everything that is needed. Now, if we ask all our viewers, everyone consumed Russia-Ukraine war. Everyone consumed Israel-Hamas war and Israel-Iran war. That is happening. But no one will be able to name without Googling two Russian newspaper or channels name, two Ukrainian newspaper or channels name, two Israeli newspaper or channels name, two Palestinian newspaper or channels name, two Iranian newspaper or channels name, is because we are consuming war through social and digital media. We are not consuming it through the conventional TV and the newspaper that is we are currently still practicing. Ukrainians understood that. So Russians were horribly down, and that's where the one bad example, since you asked me to mention, Russians were horribly bad. They were in that conventional mode, that rugged mode, and that we are what we are, be it our military equipment or the information warfare. So that, and Ukrainians were good, smart, quick. They realize if it takes Telegram to reach masses, let's use Telegram. If they realize it takes WhatsApp or YouTube to reach masses, let's do that. The other side had a fantastic contest, Israel versus Hamas. Now, Hamas was also very well. Generally, most of these terror organizations, they tend to have that trait of, better communication because that's part of their, action, reaction, and operation. But Israelis were good. Whenever they had, something tilting against them. For example, I don't remember the exact date. I was there in Tel Aviv at that time, driving towards the frontline areas. Whenever that, I remember that there's a big hospital, a missile attack on the hospital. That became the harakiri point as far as the entire Western media is concerned. The Israelis are targeting an entire hospital, but Israelis were good, quick, because they had the capability. In a matter of hours, they managed to prove that these missiles were fired by Hamas themselves. Now, if you delay that by 24 hours or 48 hours, leave that information space empty, not filling it, you would have had the narration against you. And once it goes against you, it becomes extremely difficult. But it was fabulous to see Israelis managed to pull that quickly narration out of that the tense and the intense situation. And that was like one of the best examples I saw. They, in a matter of hours, it was going against them, tilting against them, and they turned it upside down. So that's these are the examples we can learn. But I must tell your viewers, look, what was done by Russia, what was done by Ukraine, what was done by Israel, what was done by Hamas, and what is being done by Iran. We cannot simply copy paste anyone's IW or perception management or
Yeah, that of course is.
It is purely based on your country, your society, your democracy, your government, your military. Those traits largely define for that particular country. It has to be case to case different. What was practiced by Ukraine was a very good IW mechanism. Can the same thing be applied here in India? No, it's not practical. We'll have to devise our own. We have started doing it. That's the best part. We are reaching from 0 to 1. And I'm sure the way it is being started, it's being started nicely. The awareness of it is happening. I'm sure it will not take much for us to reach from 1 to 10.
Yeah, thanks, Ashish. I think we had a very intense discussion today, and we will take on some questions because the audience has been asking, is there going to be a question answer session today? So obviously, yes. The whole idea is to get your perspective also.
I'm a journalist. We're at prime time mode. It's my time to ask questions, right?
Yeah, I know that, but I will say that you will have to give way to the public. So it's a thing. Okay. This is a question from GK. India is a huge market for making money through social media content, and any foreign account banned in India will affect the reach and revenue. So he's basically looking at your double-sided approach, which you had mentioned, that there should be a ban as well as contestation.
Compartmentalization.
So, yeah. So basically, so your response to it.
Oh, it certainly is. But remember, just hitting these social media, digital media companies back won't serve. That's why I say we got to do the second part as well, right? Why can't we have our own, X? Why can't we have our own, Twitter type this thing? Why can't we have our own? It's okay if it's not as good as theirs. It's okay, big deal. Not all our cars are as good as when Tatas or the Maruti started building cars. Were they comparable to Germans? They were not. It's okay. We embrace them. We utilize them, and I believe the government needs to take initiative here. One of the most followed leaders on the social media app is Prime Minister Modi. If he just opens an account somewhere, trust me, half of the population is gonna come there. And he's someone who understands. Having seen him from both, not only just the PM days, from Gujarat days, he's someone who has a very, very good understanding of the social media and the digital media. Rather, earlier it was called the alternative media, which is now becoming the primary media. So it's just a matter of deciding. You decide, for example, you look at coup. We have half of our government and the ministers and the ministries present on coup. maybe something that they are waiting for at the right. We are there. If and when we need to pivot, we'll be able to pivot. So those capacities need to be built within our country, and that's important.
So JP is a keen listener of our programs. He is asking which TV channels would you suggest people in Bharat to follow on Iran-Israel war? Our Indian TV news channels, EN, HN, have becoming tamasha, drama, not trustworthy. Can't rely on them for truth. I mean, this is a question which will be very difficult for a media person to answer because
So
this would be
easy
taking
for me.
sides. Yeah, I know it's.
You guessed it right. Yeah. I'm gonna launch World Plus 91. There is a reason for plus
Yes,
91. So just wait for
yes,
a month or two, and we'll be there for the global coverage. Having said
correct.
that,
So,
it's okay. Look, media is a reflection of society, right? We as country, we as society, being practical and realistic, we as country, we society like that bit of spiciness, spicy thing, that drama, that tamasha, and it's not just media. See, it's visible. You can't compare Bollywood with Hollywood. There is
yeah,
that music, that drama, that tamasha, that spice as far as our cinema is concerned. So media is a reflection of society. Let's not alienate them. They come from society. The journalists come from society, right? So if our society is such, which likes tamasha and thing, it is gonna give rise to that. I always say to people, if you want to understand the country's society, culture, for you don't have to do anything. For just 24 to 48 hours, consume that country's media through
yeah,
different ways, TV,
yeah,
newspaper, website. You just consume this,
that's
and
right.
you'll get a fabulous idea and an almost accurate idea of what that country is, how is that society. Because, as I say, media is a reflection of society.
So there's another very. I think it's a more of a comment. True, Karan Thapar is a virulent anti-national character. The guy reeks of negativity. Thapar is an example of what a journalist should not be. I think we leave it at that. No comments on this. We are not
Yeah.
here to comment on anybody's character. What we are saying is that whatever they do, it should be done in the interest of national security. That's about all. Uh, in case of high probability future events, is there a draft narrative available? Is there a system of rolling out these draft narratives as soon as citations are available to make them final? Look, Akash, this is a question which only can be answered by government agencies, and government agencies would not like to answer these questions because of the fact of security, surprise, and so many other issues are concerned. We will leave it at that. The answer lies in the fact what Ashish said, that we have come a long way from Balakot, and I think whatever shortcomings have been absorbed in Ops Sindoor will be taken care of, and we'll be moving ahead. If you want to add anything else to this, Ashish, you are welcome to do that.
I mean, there cannot be fixed, plans and mechanism. It has to
Yeah.
be what can be constant is your capacity, your practice and your capacity. That is the
Yes.
only constant. Every war, every conflict, every situation will demand a slightly differently devised, a perception management or IW or PSYOPs capacity. It has to be. It's like a match. That's why I keep giving. I've named that theory as the third pitch theory. You are going to play on someone else's pitch. So every match
Yes.
is a new match. If you feel the Balakot airstrike, and it's, I believe, applicable in every domain. Right? I mean, the way Air Force acted in Sindoor is very different from the way they did in Balakot airstrike. The way Army did in Operation Sindoor is very different from the surgical strike. In the same way, what was done by us during Sindoor cannot just be simply replicated. It has to be a completely new
Absolutely.
new approach.
New situation, new things will have to come up. So this is a more of a comment. Indian overseas should focus on social media content rather than focusing on yoga and Ayurveda. Somewhere he's taken cue from what you just said. We'll go to the next question. Alia M. While it's true we can't deny the reach of a CNN or BBC, how can our platforms compete with that immediately? How do we deal with the narrative threat in the meantime? So it's basically she's asking for a short-term response of media You would like to comment on this?
Yes, look, CNN and BBC themselves never, they were not like born or built in a day. So there is nothing immediate whenever you talk in terms of a CNN or a BBC. They were built in a matter of decades, as far as that is concerned. But talking about our approach for the immediate this thing, yes, we can have that approach. The digital and social media gives you that opportunity. We can have a lot of immediate plans, immediate narrative capacities. It can be done. If you can't have your own BBC and CNN, it's okay. Learn to utilize the other countries' media houses and convey messages to, be it Pakistan or China or Turkey or anyone for that matter. For example, if you're doing that in say in the political domain, Prime Minister is going to a country which is an adversary of Turkey. Why can't we use that country's media and convey a message to Turkey? It is something similar, like a military or a political turf game. In the same structure, media can be utilized. Use social and digital media, the other countries' media, convey a loud and clear message if and when we want. There's one thing I must mention, sir, in 30 seconds. We are currently engrossed with the Op Sindoor and Pakistan because of post Pahalgam incident. I am telling you, the way Beijing must be watching us is something that we must focus on from now on. Pakistan, by and large, will take care. If it's okay if they win a bit, we lose a bit. It's fine. We don't need to worry about a country we have beaten, in several wars and conflicts.
Yeah.
But Beijing is what we should prepare for. China is what we should prepare for. They must have watched our moves, our understandings, our capacity buildings, our narrative plans, and that's where we need to surprise them. And it's going to be a complex and not so level playing field because their information and communication system is closed, ours is open. They have managed to get that global communication scenario nice and good. Ours is still picking up. So that's what I believe we should be focusing on. Pakistan will default be taken care. When you prepare for Beijing, Islamabad will default be taken care. It will fall somewhere in
Absolutely.
between.
Yeah. If you look at the bigger threat, I think the smaller threat gets automatically taken care of. And here I would like audiences, reference to what I said in the beginning, that the media resources of India, which amounts to a huge proliferation across the country, with vernacular and also the main language channels broadcasting almost 24/7, especially the news channel. The largest are the news channels in this. Actually, the Chinese media is or Chinese apparatus, the MSS, etc., are doing a huge data crunching, trying to analyze the sentiment of the Indian media, and then devising plans as to how to counter that. So that is the area of concern for us, and we should actually focus on that. So with that, I think the rest of the questions are by and large a repeat of what we have generally taken cognizance of in the question box. So because of lack of time now, I would not like to go into all the questions except show you some appreciation things that people were very happy with the podcast which was taking place. uh, and For example, just to show you, excellent podcast by SD 11999. The names are also in code. uh, there are a few comments adversely commenting upon the Sarkar which you mentioned. So I will not post them, not because they are going to be, I mean, some kind of a counterproductive. It's just that, look, that is a perception which is there in the environment. But Ashish did try to tell you that this time we did, in fact, react quite quickly, especially the PIB. So we should grant to them. Doordarshan has also started taking out some programs. They, in fact, approached me to get army officers also to come on board for such programs. We have done 2, 3 series, but unfortunately, the public also has to view them. Unless the public sees them, how can we actually have the impact of these programs? So, with that, Thank you very much, Ashish, for having joined us and spared your time for this wonderful podcast. I hope the audience has benefited from his expertise, which is global and not only national, and also the fact that based on your quest for the right information, true information, fact based information, watch out for World plus 91, which is basically India and beyond. What he's basically aiming at is that there'll be an Indian focus, of course, but with a world view. So I think you will get a good flavor of news which comes out with analysis and other related methods of dissemination of information. With that, thank you very much and Jai Hind to you and to our audience.
Thank you, sir, for